It's funny. This series started in a January and ended in a December, and I started rewatching it in a December and finished it this January. So I just had to make a video about it. Batman Beyond is a fondly remembered series that still holds up and is still talked about today. I love this series. I'm a huge fan if you didn't already know, and if you need more proof, this is a picture of me back in 2003 representing Batman Beyond. So my fan card
Is legit.
I love this series. However, it is incomplete. I'm talking about the original TV series. I'm not including the movie or that episode of Justice League or the comics. Instead of giving an in-depth review on the series or a 500 IQ analysis on the irreparable damages of the gene splicing trend of 2039, I thought I would attempt to complete it, or rather attempt to give each season an overarching story with an ending. Disclaimer, I won't be starting from scratch. I'm more so keeping everything as is and just moving some plot points around and maybe add some stuff here and there. You should probably watch the series first just so you can see what I'm changing and moving around, or just enjoy it in general. Season 1 is good. Honestly, there's not much I would change from this season. It's a good mix of bad guy of the week and has an overarching story with an open-ended conclusion. We got new Batman, Terry McGinnis, and old Batman, Bruce Wayne, teaming up to take down a maniacal businessman, Derek Powers, who is in charge of the Wayne Powers Industries and is doing some shady business under Bruce's nose. Well, it's more like Bruce knows, it's just that he can't do much because he's old. Also, Powers has powers. He has radiation ability, so he's a walking cancer glow stick. Not only that, but we're introduced to the new rogues gallery for this Batman, some of which are created by Derek Powers himself. We also see the progression of Terry's skills as Batman, his growth as a character, and his mentor-mentee relationship with Bruce Wayne, which is my favorite part. For the final episode of the season, we see the fall of Derek Powers as he's exposed as the criminal Blight by his son, Paxton Powers. His reputation is compromised and he flees. Eventually, Batman and Paxton corner Blight, but he blows himself up. Now Paxton is in charge of the company while Blight meets a watery grave. Or does he? So this season, this is where everything starts becoming more episodic than having an overarching story. At first, I thought having Paxton be the new big bad would be, the logical thing to do, but it sounds a little repetitive and it wouldn't hold as much weight because there's more of a connection between Terry and Derek Powers than, his son Paxton. So just like the original, he's still gonna be sidelined for now. Season 2 starts off with an episode revolving around splicing, and this concept is sprinkled throughout the series after this episode, so it's still an important thing. Let's have the first half of season 2 focus on the splicing trend for a bit. After the first episode of the season, after those events, they pretty much illegalize it and they start shutting down the splicing. But we can still have people do it on the low, so they'll be like half animal or whatever, but like they're experimental batches, so they can go berserk at like any time. So now Batman has to track down where these shipments are going and coming from to finally get rid of the splicing trend of 2039. Little does he know, there's a shadow organization that's behind the shipment. They've taken over the project after the arrest of Dr. Cuvier, the scientist behind the splicing. While he's doing that, I thought it would be a better incentive to bring in this universe's Kraven the Hunter to Gotham. Like, yeah, he can still see Batman as like the ultimate prize to beat, but he'll come to Gotham because there's plenty of game to hunt. That episode where Stalker, I called him Kraven, but his name is Stalker. That episode where Stalker tries to kill Batman can still happen, only instead of dying at the end, quote unquote, he can be like, "You have proven yourself worthy. I'll get you one day, but for now, it seems there are bigger prey to hunt." Eventually, Batman gets a lead on who is continuing splicing, and it's Cobra. See, it's fitting an animal theme. So now Batman and Stalker find Cobra's headquarters and start beating ass Arkham Knight style, just tag team, 54 hit combos, ultimate takedowns. They defeat the one in charge, but it's revealed it's not the true person in charge. So the threat is still out there somewhere. And if that's not scary enough, this organization operates like Hydra from Marvel, which is also like a snake. So they hide in plain sight and they can be anyone. But at least the major threat of splicing is finally gone. There are still stragglers out there with their modified DNA, but for the most part, the serum is gone. By this point, Stalker returns home because there's no longer a threat, except for Batman, but he respects him enough to leave him alone. For now. So now that Cobra is in Batman's radar and they can be anyone in Gotham, he's a lot more on edge while on patrol and he's making mistakes left and right, which Bruce notices. So, like a good mentor, he sends him to train under Kairi Tanaga to sharpen his skills and mind and center himself. You know, give him something to get his mind off of things. And yes, this kind of happens in The Curse of Cobra Part 1 in Season 3, but we're going to extend that plot thread throughout the season. So Terry meets Xander, who is secretly the leader of Cobra, but he doesn't know this yet. So they train together and get to know each other, but just a bit because he's very guarded by his bodyguards. However, there's still a connection there as they acknowledge each other's skills, even though Xander is a bit better. On his own time, we see Xander orchestrate his experiments on the remaining splice formula, but it's still incomplete due to Batman's constant interference. Xander would just keep on doing his business, experimentation, stealing fossils from museums and getting materials for a thermal bomb, and at the same time throwing in some decoy crimes to throw off Batman. This leaves Bruce and Terry puzzled as they try to piece together the connection. I thought it would be cool to also have the Cobra agents kind of do like a catch and release system. Since they pretty much are like Hydra, the cops, the judges, or any person in power like the mayor or whatever could just help them escape, and then they could pretty much be like, oh yeah, they escaped on their own, Batman. Oh, whatever shall we do? It's hectic and chaotic and corrupted as hell. And it buys Xander enough time to complete his plan. Meanwhile, Terry's friendship/rivalry with Xander is fleshed out, as well as the teacher-mentor relationship with Kairi. Some episodes it'll have them just chilling together with Max, and that's where his infatuation with her comes into play. They'll have double dates with Terry and Dana, and maybe Max will start to feel something too. Because they would get close to each other, eventually Terry and Xander figure out each other's secret identity. And Bruce finds out what Cobra's plan is. Xander kidnaps Max, and now Terry must find her and stop Xander before he turns everyone into lizards. I mean, dinosaur people. Yeah, that was his plan. The final episode of the season will basically be The Curse of Cobra Part 2, where Terry fights his close friend who's turned into a Dino Man. Kairi comes to aid Terry as the two use combo techniques straight from Arkham Knight. Inverted takedowns, stun lock, batarangs everywhere, inverted takedowns. Their fight causes the destruction of the ship and it starts blowing up. Terry finds Max in time to save her, but not before being saved himself by Kairi as she gets them into an escape pod. As all the escape pods escape, Kairi goes down with the ship and takes her former student with her. They mourn the death of Kairi, but also their friend Xander. But now Gotham and the world are safe. For now. Everything I'm adding from this point on is original. This is the last season of the series, and this is where some more memorable episodes are, like when Bruce becomes young again or when Terry joins the Justice League for a bit. It's all great. That can stay. Why not? This season, however, the overarching story will see the return of Blight. Yes, he's alive for now. By this point, Paxton is still in power and is dealing in more sketchy deals under the table. This pisses Bruce off as he's growing tired of his company getting dragged through the dirt by the Powers family. But with Batman on the case, they'll be able to nail him. However, there's an increase in burglar activity by the Royal Flush Gang. Yeah, these schmucks. But wait, they're not the Royal Flush Gang. They're the rest of Terry's Rogues Gallery, pretending to be them. Well, pretending is a strong word. They're an incarnation of the gang. It's stated by Waller that the gang goes through many incarnations, so different people can replace the members at any moment. So in this version though, you got Ink, Spellbinder, Shriek. Once you think about it, most of Batman's villains end up dying. Let's put Willie Watt and Terminal. Sure, why not? Willie Watt and Terminal join forces and cause crime to beat the Batman. Why a team of these individuals? I'll get to that. So Batman tries to stop his version of the Sinister Six, but it's not enough as they trounce him, wreck his world, body him, lay him out, but he escapes. Bruce helps Terry with his wounds and they brainstorm why these guys are working together. What's the common denominator? Bruce then says it's not uncommon for his enemies to team up against him when he was Batman, but it is odd that they are impersonating the Royal Flush Gang, almost like there's a bigger picture that they're not seeing right now. So then Terry decides to visit his old fling at her new job to start their situationship again. I'm just kidding. He visits Melanie as Batman to get some answers to see if she knows anything about the new Royal Flush Gang. She doesn't know anything because she's moving on from that part of her life, and she doubts that her family is involved because they're behind bars. After that dead end, he visits Barbara Gordon to see if she's got any intel from the original, or I guess the last incarnation of the Royal Flush Gang, but it's also a dead end. This is when Bruce calls him back because he found something. Back at the Batcave, Bruce finds a paper trail of Paxton's finances. He's been wiring money to a private account every few weeks. Bruce then pulls footage from Blackgate Prison because of course he can. He's Batman. And notices that the same woman visits Terminal, Willie Watt, and Spellbinder just before they escape prison. Well, why am I quoting that? They escape prison. Terry recognizes her. It's Blight's secretary, Miss Winston. Bruce deduces that she and Paxton have a part in whatever plan they got cooking, but Terry assures him that she was only loyal to one person. Back at the villain hideout, they're all awaiting their cut of the moolah. And of course, they all want a big cut because they're all alphas. So they're getting rowdy and Miss Winston has to come in and quiet everybody down. And everyone is like, "Hey, we've been stealing nothing but credits and jewelry for a while now. What's the end goal? We could have done this on our own." Yeah. Although kicking the crap out of Batman was a nice bonus. Yeah. I know that's right.
We all appreciate what you've done, but I would much rather go back to hooking up the children.
Hey, yo! Fuck? Send him back. So then a voice echoes throughout the room. My friends, you're all together because of my doing. Each of you have lost something. Reputations tarnished, livelihoods taken away, and one person always swoops in to lock you up. Batman! And then Blight just comes out of the shadows. If Blight's a glow stick, how can he come out of shadows? So then Blight comes out of the room he was hiding in, revealing himself to the crew. Everyone is in shock, except for Shriek, who suits up and launches an attack at him, only to get blasted away. Everyone is about to attack as well, but Blight, the smooth talker that he is, just quells the tension and offers him full compensation for their work and a chance at a new life if they just help follow through with his grand plan, which I'll get to later on. Later on, Terry tracks down Miss Winston and demands answers from her, only to be tossed aside like a rag doll. She now has superpowers, and she is now Vendetta. bringing a comic book character into this. So then Batman gets his ass kicked and she flees, but not before having a tracer placed on her. Classic Batman move. Vendetta leads Terry to the villain hideout where he scans the area, gathering intel with his finger mics. He sees Willie assembling some sort of machine with his telekinesis. Shriek is running diagnostics. Terminal is drawing up a plan for their next heist with Ink and Spellbinder. But Spellbinder is too mesmerized by Willie's WMDs to pay attention. I joke about this, but this guy is a creep. Batman swoops in and puts a stop to whatever they're doing. He wins the first round, but is in for a surprise when Blight reveals himself. Now Batman is on the defensive as it's a 1v7, and once again he narrowly escapes. So now the villain team, the Sinister Seven, I guess, head to Paxton's office where he's on standby. And this is his whole plan. Step 1. Hire Spellbinder to hypnotize Paxton to fund his plan. Step 2. Assemble the new Royal Flush Gang as a distraction for Batman as extra muscle and gather parts that he needs for his machine. And step number 3. Build a machine to take over Paxton's body and reclaim his life. But didn't they already do that with Talia and Ra's al Ghul? Yes, but actually no. In this series they might have reuse some similar concepts, like, Joker taking over Tim Drake's body, cloning Mr. Freeze so he could get a new body. You got Ra's al Ghul taking over Talia's body. Let's just say he's swapping bodies with Paxton. He's gonna take over Paxton's body and Paxton is gonna be in Derek's old body. He can't really go back to his old life because he's a criminal and he doesn't want to have his powers anymore because they're killing him. So anyway, Terry contacts Bruce and is doubtful that he can take on all 7 of them and save Paxton. But Bruce tells him that he must, and it's not just Paxton's life that hangs in the balance, it's the entirety of Gotham. Why is that? Well, in the beginning, Blight didn't have full control of his powers and his condition was worsening. And the angrier he became, the more his radiation built up until he finally exploded. So far, it's been a minute since he disappeared and there wasn't any trace of his radiation spiking, or at least no mention of it in the show. So this dude probably had his powers under wraps and was meditating on the side or something. However, if Paxton were to enter his body, someone who's never had superpowers, then all that built up energy and stress would nuke Gotham. So now there's a time clock, but Terry still needs to take care of the Sinister Seven quickly. That's when 10, Terry's ex-girlfriend, ex-Royal Flush Gang member, joins him in the fight. The two head over to Paxton's building. This is where the big climactic fight happens.
54 hit combos, back call, takedown, electric shock gun.
So Batman and 10 split up the Sinister Seven, which is 6 at the moment because Blight is booting up his device. It's a hard fight, but Batman notices the machine and throws an electric batarang at it, causing it to malfunction and blow up. Blight is pissed, so he starts having a meltdown. The fighting stops momentarily as Blight collapses part of the building. Batman and 10 get everyone out except for Vendetta as she stays behind with Blight, but the energy output is so unstable that it melts her instantly. Okay, maybe that's kind of gruesome. Let's just say it vaporizes her instantly. So everyone leaves, and yes, with Paxton as well, and the building comes tumbling down on top of Blight. Everyone recovers from the explosion/implosion. The cops round up the bad guys except for 10, who leaves before that can happen, but includes Paxton because he has been funding the Sinister Seven on their robberies, even though he was hypnotized. Barbara Gordon once again thanks Batman for his efforts and asks, "You think he's gone this time?" "Oh yeah, he's gone for good." Bruce then chimes in and says, "Terry, there's still work to do in Gotham." Mad Stan is doing his usual anarchy shtick, and Terry's like, "I'm on my way," as he ascends into the air and into the night with his symbol covering the screen. The end. But yes, this is something that I kind of played around with, came up with. It's not perfect. There's definitely some places that I feel like need to be refined a bit, but it's something that I would have liked to see at the very least. But what do you all think? Do you guys agree with my vision, or do you guys have your own ideas that you would have liked to see in the original series? I think we're due for a movie adaptation.